Hello everyone, Ehren here, Question Period Canada. Pierre Poilievre has been on fire. Trudeau and the Liberals are finally fighting back. It's interesting, the Liberals have been freaking out this week. Poilievre sets them off. To start off here, he goes at Trudeau, but he goes at all the MPs this week. It's fun, let's check it out.
So he admits that natural gas is cleaner and lower emitting, and that's exactly why he's going to penalize Canadians for using it. Mr. Speaker, he says he wants to bring in a pause for some people in some places. I want to get rid of the tax for all people in all places and forever. But wait, why don't we let Canadians decide? Why doesn't the Prime Minister pause the tax across the country until Canadians go to the polls so we can have a carbon tax election and Canadians can choose his plan to quadruple the tax or my plan to axe the tax?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it is amazing to me that after 3 failed elections in a row by the Conservatives, they still want to fight another election on denying climate change, on denying the costs of climate change. After the summer we've had, they continue to say no plan against climate change is what's good for Canadians, good for our economy, good for businesses. They are wrong, and Canadians are going to show them that once again.
So you can see both sides are heated. They're standing up, they're applauding. It's getting hot on the Hill. But that's not the only time he and Trudeau went at it. Poilievre comes back and goes again.
The Leader of the Opposition.
That he continues to contradict the parliamentary budget officer who said that 60% of Canadians pay more in his carbon tax than they get back in the rebates. What now he's doing is contradicting what he said on Thursday, wherein he admitted that Canadians are made worse off on a net basis by his tax. That's why he's having to put a pause until after the election. Already, 14% of Canadians are living with unsafe temperatures in their homes. 1 in 10 have missed a heating bill in the last 12 months. Will he, before people go cold and hungry, axe the tax so that people can keep the heat on?
Home heating oil is more expensive, more emitting, more polluting, and is in households that on general are lower income and don't have the means to support it. That's why we're putting forward a program that is going to give free heat pumps installed right across the country as long as the provinces step up and partner with us the way 3 provinces already have. We know the best way to support families is to have them save thousands of dollars a year on heating. That's what they're going to be able to do with a heat pump. That's why we're delivering it right across the country as provinces step up.
Next up is Randy Balsano. One hand in my pocket all the time. He needs to do that to be able to talk. He loses it against Poilievre. He loses it.
Leader of the Opposition.
Oh, badly for that Liberal minister who's been abandoned by his leader, who the leader of their government won't even stand and defend his own decisions. We know that on Thursday, he suddenly, after having his door beat down by terrified Liberals about to lose their seats, decided to flip-flop and bring in a temporary pause on a tax until after the election, dividing Canadians once again into 2 different classes. If he's so proud of how he's divided people, if he's so proud of how he's forcing Canadians to choose between heating and eating, why won't he have the guts to stand up and say so now?
The Honourable Minister.
I'll tell you who's feeling abandoned by their leader. Conservative Albertans, New Democrat Albertans, Liberal Albertans. You know why, Mr. Speaker? Because Danielle Smith is trying to take Albertans out of the Canada Pension Plan. And what do we have from the leader of the Conservative Opposition, Mr. Speaker? Weak sauce and platitudes. The pretender to the throne can stand up here right today and say a full-throated defense of Canada Pension Plan while his 30 Alberta MPs stand in silence. Will he or won't he? I know we will, Mr. Speaker, and Albertans can count on us defending them every single day along with their pensions.
So Randy Balsano continues to freak out, but when he does, Poilievre throws this punch. It's hysterical.
The Honourable Minister.
I'll tell you who's feeling abandoned by their leader. Conservative Albertans, New Democrat Albertans, Liberal Albertans. You know why, Mr. Speaker? Because Danielle Smith is trying to take Albertans out of the Canada Pension Plan. And what do we have from the leader of the Conservative opposition, Mr. Speaker? Weak sauce and platitudes. The pretender to the throne can stand up here right today and say a full-throated defense of Canada Pension Plan while his 30 Alberta MPs stand in silence. Will he or won't he? I know we will, Mr. Speaker, and Albertans can count on us defending them every single day along with their pensions.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, that carbon tax question was for the Prime Minister on Prime Minister's question period today. And I know that I don't have my glasses on, but that guy doesn't look like the Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker.
You're right, it's not.
So I have a very simple motion. It says that given that the government has announced a temporary 3-year pause to the federal carbon tax on home heating oil, the House call on the government to extend that pause to all forms of heating oil, period. Will the Prime Minister have the courage to stand up and indicate whether the vote on this motion will be a free vote for his members?
So Randy Balsano's a pretty funny looking little guy. Always talks with his hand in his pocket. Can't talk without it. Up next, Adam Van Culverden. And he kind of snaps on Poilievre. Can't keep himself controlled. He even gets in trouble with the speaker. This is a longer segment, but it's interesting to see how Mr. Speaker's losing control of the whole floor. It's interesting. Let's check it out.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Now the carbon tax chaos continues. The incoming leader of the Liberal Party, Mark Carney, has weighed in and said that he, quote, I would have looked for other ways to provide support than the route chosen, not least of because what is important is that clarity in terms of the overall plan, the overall direction. So now we have an incoming Liberal leader taking pot shots at an outgoing Liberal Prime Minister who is in hiding. How much longer can Canadians deal with this carbon tax chaos before we get an election and choose a common sense Conservative candidate?
Before I pass on to the Parliamentary Secretary to answer the question, I'd like to remind all members, and out of profound respect to the position and the office of the Leader of the Opposition, I again want to remind all members to please take a look at the statement which I made regarding decorum in the House in terms of understanding what all members have to do in terms of their work. I'll pass on the question to the Parliamentary Secretary to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's 2023, and if you don't have a plan to fight climate change and protect the environment, then you don't have a plan for the economy or for affordability either. And it's very clear that the Conservative plan is just to cut funding for social services like the Canada Child Benefit and our dental plan and seniors funding and the dental benefit, which has just recently surpassed 200,000 children, Mr. Speaker. The Conservative plan to fix global inflation by cutting people's services is not going to work. It's risky, irresponsible, and it's absolutely reckless, just like the Conservative leader.
Again, I'd like to remind all members in the questions and their answers is that you will want to make sure that you are not impugning to individual members questions that I raised regarding their courage, their intelligence, or even their presence in the House. I ask all members, please, to exercise some great restraint and decorum. We can have passionate debates in this House, and there are ways which we can do so within the rules that have been established by this place.
So we see in that piece that Greg Fergus, Mr. Speaker, he has no control over either side. Nobody's listening. It's more fun when they don't listen anyhow. Up next, Mark Holland, Minister of Health. He loses it on Poilievre too, kind of gives a speech.
Mr. Speaker, I can understand as these Liberal members watch their Prime Minister in a panicked huddle in the fetal position, shaking and trembling, that they are losing control of themselves. The last few days of carbon tax chaos has been very hard on them, and now their leader is defending them. The minister says we should let Canadians decide. So why don't we pause the carbon tax on all home heat until the vote, when Canadians will decide whether they want the Prime Minister's plan to hike the tax 61 cents a litre, or my common sense plan to axe the tax for everyone forever.
The Honourable Minister.
Things, Mr. Speaker, that we as Liberals are united on. We are united on the fact that the leader of the opposition is trying to destroy the action that our government is taking on climate change, not only our government, but governments across the world that are finally turning the tide, because he wants to go back to the time when they were attacking climate action. Mr. Speaker, we're united in the fact that we led the G7 in 2020 and 2022 in growth, that we're going to be #1 again in 2024, that 64,000 jobs were created in Canada. Which country would he change places with? When he denigrates Canada, what country does he think better? Because this is the greatest country in the world, and we will stand up for it, Mr. Speaker.
I think that we've saved the best segment for last. Karina Gould, who is usually a very boring clown, completely pops off. It's interesting. But when she does, Greg Fergus has to try to get her under control and the Liberals, because both sides are freaking out and he has control over neither. He gets heckled, he gets booed, sit down, shut up, things like this. It's wild. Let's see.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
This Liberal senator, Mr. Percy Down, wrote, and I quote, "The opportunity for a Conservative government has been created by a lack of fiscal responsibility by the Liberal government, and the damage it has caused our economy is now showing up in the opinion polls. Within the Liberal Party, many members who are in favor of fiscal responsibility have given up on this current iteration of the Liberal Party, and hence the leader should resign." Yet he won't stand and answer questions, even though his itinerary shows that he was in this building today. Wow. If he won't show up and do his job, why won't he get out of the way? Because I will.
Over the last 2 weeks, many members have taken upon themselves to quote my statement back to me, and I'm quite happy to defend that statement. As your chair, again, I will say that it is important for us to recognize that all members have duties, all members of this House, regardless of which side you have, which sometimes takes them out of this chamber to do their duties. That's the reason. That is the reason why. That is the reason why that we try not to mention whether or not the member is present or not in the House. It's part of the duties. So we are going to continue on. I believe there is the Honourable House Leader is going to answer this question.
Mr. Speaker, I find the last thing that the Honourable Leader of the Opposition said particularly troubling, because it is Canadians who decide who sit in this House and not the Leader of the Opposition. But, Mr. Speaker, let me be very clear that it's troubling, but it's not surprising, because when he was the Minister of Democratic Reform, Mr. Speaker, he made it hard harder for 150,000 of Canada's most vulnerable citizens to vote. He was also sanctioned by Elections Canada for violating electoral law. While what he's saying is completely inappropriate, it is unsurprising given his track record and his lack of respect for democracy. Thank you.
Again, colleagues, it is so important. Colleagues, sit down. Hello.
Order.
Colleagues, it is important, once again, to not call in.
Sit down, speaker it up.
Could I ask the member, please, from Surrey, to please allow me to continue. Colleagues, I ask all members to please exercise discretion. These are the things which you all raised with me and others in terms of improving the discretion. So I'm going to ask the Honourable Leader of the colleagues.
He should be sit down.
May I ask all colleagues, excuse me, colleagues, temperatures are running hot. Temperatures are running hot today. If I could ask all members, please, to sit down. May I ask all members to respectfully sit down, please?
All members.
May I ask all members to respectfully sit down until I recognize them to speak? Please. Colleagues. The honourable member of the honourable leader of the opposition.
So that's a pretty fun episode. Poilievre really does have the Liberals and Trudeau freaking out. They're all flipping. The Speaker of the House can't control them, both sides. Like and subscribe. We've got more great videos coming. We'll be covering all of this. We'll see you next time.